Okay, status. So last week, that was not last week. Last week, Antoine back with SEO. Antoine made a demo of the SEO module that Dean made/started a while ago. And I also got feedback from Seth about his own module, and I also gave feedback about it. We talked about the rules module, new module, and collections. Dean talked about it, how we should use the SQL collection to store documents. And I think there is a draft PR for the OpenID tokens right now. So today, March 2nd, 2021, demos and topics. Zoltan is here, so we'll get a topic. Zoltan.
Yes, it will be a demo actually.
What?
It will be a demo, a module demo.
Oh. Zoltan, a module demo. Who else?
Yes, multiple small demos.
OMG. Dean, you can't be beaten by Antoine and Zoltan. You have
I'm
to
just
do
going to
better.
sit back and enjoy their demos.
Oh,
For a change.
okay. Who else? I don't think I have anything. Oh, I have. Oh my god. Oh my god. We'll see. I mean, I did so much last week. I'm not sure I have anything to show, but I did so much. Oh, we'll see. We can talk about. Well, I will put myself in topics. That's the best topic, right? Okay. So status. Orchard core, Orchard 1. There were some things on Orchard 1 from Hermes and Matteo, as usual. Feature upgradable libraries. Just libraries that got upgraded. It's not new, right? No, it's not new. We talked about it. So what's new is that updating migration for CommonPartRecord and IdentityPartRecord. We gave some feedback about a PR they made, changes they did in the migration. So they updated the migration to react to the comments. Orchard core. When was it ready? 23rd, which is around noon. But I will filter on dev, better. Here. Yeah, I remember we're talking about some typos and Antoine was fixing them while we were giving the feedback. Well, we didn't even give feedback. He was fixing them while the meeting was going on. So Titus, add HTML menu type. Interesting. So that's an HTML menu item. Okay, HTML menu item. This is interesting because I remember doing the same one in Orchard 1. And it was pretty useful, I think. So you can, yeah, that's super useful for menus that are super customized. Like you have items that are links, but there is one item that is special, a div with custom HTML to provide like images and stuff inside. So I assume that's what it is, a custom HTML menu item where you can just edit the raw HTML directly. Is it and ISO sanitizing? So is it using shortcodes. Date sanitize. So this is when we
It's just sanitizing the HTML rather than using shortcodes particularly.
Okay, so sanitizing. It's not opposite, right? We could sanitize and have shortcodes.
No, not opposite at all. We could have both.
At least it's sanitizing. Interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Can you add, for example, a font awesome I element with the font awesome class?
That's a different question. That's not related to that. Okay, Dean, if you sanitize, can you add custom tag like font awesome?
You should be able to.
Because it's a class.
Nothing in the font awesome classes that that would prevent that, or nothing that's unsafe about it.
By default,
we do this all the time with menus, and just a footer menu which has got the Twitter icons and the Facebook icons and the like. So yeah, should be fine. Good use case.
But by default, the HTML sanitizer doesn't allow the class attribute. It's something that is customized in the options.
Yeah, we add that by default though in the options.
Which is interesting. So GraphQL support for that. Looks like a complete, very nice migration menu to create the type and startup using a recipe migration. URL H. What is that? Oh, because it's a menu, there is still a URL, but then you have HTML to represent. So what is the URL then? So it's creating a link, an ensure, but the content of the ensure must be HTML. That must be it. So let's look at a view. That will be obvious then. Liquid. No, this is a custom implementation. Link. Where is the content? Here, raw. Okay, that's what it is. That's interesting. Why would you? Okay, not to repeat. Okay, I see. It's not to repeat the properties. That works. And in the HTML here, Razor. That's weird. Oh, I assume that's because we do that. I hope we followed the way we do that in the other links. Menu views. This one. Yeah, that's just another one. Okay. Good. Thank you, Titus. Code mirror 559. Migrate menu to display text property.
So this actually goes with the HTML menu item, because we had an issue to not use the name property of them anymore. So I suggested that the HTML menu type should be using display text, and it didn't seem right to have the other one using those properties, so upgraded them both at the same time. So non-breaking, it's just obsolete, but still updated in both cases.
So you're updating the name property still?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Good. Code mirror. So did they change the content of the file and it doesn't work anymore?
I guess I forgot to save this file in the previous PR, and I had to do it twice.
It's okay. Happens all the time. And I say every time, one day we'll have a functional test that ensures that what we typed is fine. Then dashboard enhance. Oh,
I can make a demo after.
I'd like to. We merged Niraj PR. So I hope we'll have a demo today. We're so noisy. It makes more noise than me. Is that Dave? Yeah, probably Dave. It's okay, Dave.
Sorry.
I just wonder. I just heard some things. So wow, yeah. So many. Oh, look at that. So first drag and drop. We'll see them. Then from David Ferguson, super awesome work to change all the target framework and all the props files, targets files to support net 5.0 as default and 3.1. So now every module is compiled on both. And right now it might change. The only target on the CMS project is 5.0, but anyone can define 3.1 because it will work with that. But we have a single target right now. So you will need the 5.0 SDK like before, but it will use 5.0 by default when you start it. If you want to use 3.1, you can set 3.1 in your CS project. Just the project CS project, the web project CS project, because all the modules we build are targeting both 3.1 and 5.0. So we ensure it's working on both frameworks. We ship the packages on both frameworks, and you decide on your app which one you want to use. Nice thing with 5.0 are all the new features of 5.0, but we need to work with 3.1, so it's not about that. It's also mostly for the perf improvements. Fixing CI with net 5.0 because now it's multi-targeting. When we publish, we need to define what we want to publish for. So again, the Docker files are by default deployed with 5.0, and it's not breaking. I mean, your existing site and database will still work even if we update to 5.0. There is no breaking change there. But the default is 5.0. So if you want to build the Docker image with 3.1, just do your own Docker image. Can't use the Docker container we ship on Docker Hub. New MK docs, missing tangle per reference on the roles module. Added David as a contributor. Dashboard recipe. Okay, fixing some widgets. Is that a widget? It's a widget.
Yeah, and adding width and height.
Okay, the default one. Good. Mm. What happens if you don't have one? It will be 1.1 or 0.0? 0.0?
1.1, and it was too high to be displayed.
Okay. So how long between this one and this one? Less than 24 hours. Interesting. Merge fields onto existing hard typed. Hard type or strongly typed? Hard typed parts.
It's an old issue that we've had with GraphQL where it just gets, the schema gets confused when you add a dynamic field to, say, a menu part. So the menu part is hard typed. Yeah, it just fixes that.
Okay. Remove unneeded NuGet version attribute from tests. It's a huge change. I mean, so many changes in this PR. How come doesn't it show anything? Is that a bad commit?
I don't know.
You should check.
It shows something on yeah, I'll check on GitHub now.
And Antoine updated ImageSharp, which was fixed by our friend Dean. We're doing some benchmarking, and we're using the ImageSharp, an image resize. And Dean, and on my side, I didn't see anything. It was all perfect. But Dean, when he did that, saw some 500s, like 10 500s out of 1 million requests, let's say, something like that. But still, like exceptions. And at the same time, Steven Spitz reported on Gitter an exception in the log about ImageSharp, and with a null ref. And so that was what Dean was also experiencing, and he found the issue in ImageSharp and fixed it, and now it's better and faster. So thank you. And I actually learned a technique by reading Dean's PR, which is, yeah, that's interesting. To use a tuple in a cache. So the cache value is a tuple, and this way you can't have a desynchronization between two values that are cached, like in two different caches. Just cache the tuple. That's super interesting technique, like the ID plus the value. And I use it somewhere else actually to prevent from concurrency issues. Thank you, Dean. NLog 4.1.1, mock 4.16.1, API GraphQL package. Okay. API GraphQL. What is that?
Graphical.
Graphical. Okay. Default content manager. What's the issue with that? Eviction versions could be null. I have no idea what eviction versions are. Interesting. Update root package versions for Babel and TypeScript. Multi-targeting tweaks. Okay, so after the PR from David, we get Jean-Thierry trying to fix some things. When was that? Yesterday. There is still some discussion with David to find the best solution for build times. Dev, that's the solution. Thank you, Jean-Thierry. We're saying that in a comment, we should not push the latest image. There is an issue here. And that's the solution. It was because there was no tag. It was pushing to the latest, and the latest is supposed to only be pushed on master. So that was the solution, and that's why it was failing, right, Antoine? I should now it's working.
Yes,
thank you. I heard the noise. Someone joined, and he's not
Jean-Philippe.
Specify area framework for VS Code published tasks. Thank you, Jasmine, for updating the VS Code files. Completely forgot about it. Update Dependencies.props. That's me updating SQL with a few fixes. The now function is now supported, and there was a duplicate index because on the ID generator table, there was a primary key and an extra index on the primary key. And someone, actually, Jean-Thierry, I think, filed an issue, and someone found the issue while installing Orchard also. So I fixed it in SQL and updated it. And that's so sad because I wanted to fix a bug in SQL, and I completely forgot about it, and then I pushed everything. Docs code templates. So many changes. What is it? Oh, icons. Oh, templates. Okay, the NuGet packages templates. I see. Okay. So you moved stuff here? Because, no, it's plus. What is plus?
Why I did not understand why it was excluded from the git ignore, and now I get it. It's because it's in a .template.config.src, and it was not appearing in Visual Studio. So I made another one.
Who made the PR? Remember? Was it Janice? Michael?
Magnus.
Magnus. Okay, I completely wrong then. Okay. Yeah, Magnus. Okay. Yeah, to add some support in the Visual Studio.
Yeah, I will show you.
Thank you. At the solution level, build HTFM separately. Okay, so Jean-Thierry updating again, making the improvements. Still, it was today. Cypress 6.0. Oh, sorry, 6.6 must be much better. And from Antoine, prevent warnings on packing module updating. Still lots of and more there. Make benchmark not packable, fix. Oh no, sorry, don't go so fast. .NET new parameters. Actually, it's related to the previous one. Prevent last warning on packaging. Fix no reference exception in layer recipe migration. Okay. Make benchmark packable. Dynamic user permissions. Dynamic user permissions. This is the thing we talked about last week and maybe before also. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I've demoed a couple of times now.
Yeah, good, perfect. Awesome. Now, 12:30, time for demos. Who wants to start? Zoltan, because you haven't been there for a long time. So,
sure, thanks. Yes, it will be a module. Just let me share my screen. Just a sec.
Oh, I think I know. Are there charts related to that?
Yes, it's about charts. So it's for the enterprise people. Yes, indeed, it's about charts and metrics and whatever, because it's about application insights. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So if you don't know what application insights is, Azure application insights, it's an application performance monitoring tool. So within Azure, you can create such application insights resources, one of them which I created here, and it will give you nice metrics and other data about your app while running in production or staging or something. This is not for local work, but rather for seeing what happens in an application that is actually deployed somewhere. Well, this is just a test account here, so you can't really see much, but you see, for example, we can see what failures happen in the app or how many requests are coming in case of a web app and how long they take. Or even it can automatically check the availability of the app by pinging it or even running more complex web tests. Now, there's a lot more to it, of course. If you are curious, just check out the docs. They are pretty good. But what I would like to show now is an Orchard module that integrates it into Orchard. This is actually a very old module because there was an Orchard 1 module before, and now we have rewritten it on Orchard Core. It makes using application insights a bit easier because, you can just add a couple of NuGet packages and do 1-2 lines of configuration and get away with it. But we figure that there can be a bit more configuration, and the whole thing can be a bit even easier. So basically how you use it is, well, you add it to your solution. This is only available in a source form currently because it depends on the nightly build of Orchard. But once 1.0 is out, we'll provide NuGet packages too. You will need to configure it from static configuration or one of the app configuration sources. So, for example, in app settings.json, or in case of Azure, in an Azure app service, the app settings or something. You will basically need to set up what kind of logging you want, because log entries are are forwarded to application insights too, and something called an instrumentation key, which is a bit like an API key, but you will also need to set up something which is actually called an API key. And once you are done there, there's a lot more configuration available, which we have implemented for privacy reasons, for not having too much data during development, if you are actually trying out how it looks like, to test how the whole thing works and check out whether telemetry is collected, etc., etc. So let's see how it actually works. I have a little app set up here. Again, it uses one of the nightlies, but it's an older nightly, so not the latest source. And of course, it's set up with the blog recipe. What I've done here is that I've enabled the module. It is also configured, as I mentioned in the app settings, the JSON file. So that's of course necessary. And once we have it here, we can go to the configured corresponding application insights account and, for example, check out the live metrics. I had some connection issues with Azure today, so I hope it will just work. Oh no, I actually shut down the app. Okay, why I'm restarting the app, sorry about that. Let's check out what goes into pretty much the logs, because here under transaction search, what you see is all the data gathered by application insights. Oops, in the meantime, it's restarting. So you see, for example, you can see all the request data here, which is similar to the HTTP log of IIS. You can see all the exceptions, all the page views. Page views are the client-side parts of requests. That is the terminology here. Traces, just other kind of logging, and you can also log any custom event that happens in the app, so you can correlate it with things, as well as dependencies. Dependencies in application insights are everything that happens outside of the app. So a web request to a web API, or even to something like Google Analytics on the client side is a dependency. And SQL queries are dependencies too. So, for example, this is not collecting all the data, so we have a lot of data here. I clicked around the app a few times before. And for example, if we want to know what happened in a request, well, let me search for blog, because I know that there was an interesting one. So yeah, for example, this one. So if you want to know what happened in the request, you see all the details correlated. So the request, the page views, the dependency calls, everything. So for example, you see that here was a server-side request. This action, which was actually this URL, the home page. It happened in the development environment on the default shell by the user named admin. And correspondingly, there was this page view where you can see a bit of client-side details about the browser and the ILs. And you also see the corresponding SQL queries here, like this was the first one. Yeah, some query here. And we have a lot of other queries. And finally, we should see a commit here. Yeah, that was the last SQL command. So basically, you can look into a request and see what exactly happens. The same is available for background tasks as well, by the way, although that in this application is for some reason broken. In another solution, it works for me. It should work. I won't be able to demo it today. And this way you can check out what is slow, what goes wrong, what people do, because user flows can be tracked as well, and what issues arise. Because if you look at an exception, let me filter for exceptions here. Yeah, I made some deliberate exceptions. There you can also check out what happened. So again, everything is correlated. So here was an exception, which was just a dummy exception, but you see the call stack and you see the request where it happened. And again, you see all the details of the request. So like who did it, all the HTTP details, and the corresponding SQL queries and corresponding everything else that you may track as traces or custom events. And this is all gathered here. You can check out in detail. You can drill into it. You can analyze the logs. You can create alerts based on various criteria. A lot of stuff. But I think what is the most fun is the live stream, which I couldn't show you before. This shows what's happening in the app right now. Well, this is a local lab, so not much, but let me refresh. This shows with about a 1 second of delay that how many requests are happening, how long did they take? Well, this was pretty fast. What happens with dependencies? So these were database calls, and what's on the server otherwise. So is it under load? Is it idling? What happens? And if you break something, and I can do this log test to log an exception and other log entries behind the scenes, then you will see that, hey, there was one exception here, and it also shows up on the right-hand side. So again, something bad happened. So that's it. I think it's pretty useful. We have been using it in our production apps for a very long time. I mean, application insights. And before with the Orchid 1 module, and now with the Orchid Core module. So it helps debugging and checking out what happens in your app a lot.
Awesome, thank you. Can we enable the module while the app is running, and then go in the portal to edit the key after that?
Yes. One thing though that when you edit settings here in the Azure portal for an app service, yes, that will cause a restart.
That's it. Okay, so that's okay. So you still need to restart. Okay, good. Well, that's okay. And I assume people will just type this. Should just type in the variable the settings and then enable the module. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much like that. And of course, you can this way use different settings for different environments, even if the database happens to be the same. So easy to swap between a staging and production slot, for example.
If you do a request on an image, does it show up?
Yes, I think I'm not sure about the live stream, but probably it should. So
maybe
this
it should, because middleware still.
Yes, it's by middleware, and it shows all the requests that goes to the app, so including static resources. So it should probably show up. But yes, CSS files, JavaScript files, images, whatever are tracked as well. Even though it doesn't load.
Oh, you clicked, but okay. But
it's still.
I see. That's
loading.
the good thing. Okay. That's great. What else?
It's a bit slow today for some reason. Maybe
it would
have
been nice to see a load generation, to see the charts grow up like with lots of requests.
Yeah, that's interesting. We could use your load testing tool, right?
No, I mean, there are lots of tools you can download. Like Bombardier is very famous because it's just one exe you download, some GitHub. So, and then one command line you generate some load. Apache Bench also, but Bombardier is famous. It works everywhere. Okay. Then what? No, that's nice. Response time 5.2 milliseconds. Well, it's a 5 icon. It's easy, and it was local.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next, Antoine.
Yes. So first,
flawless transition.
Small enhancement. As we merged the multi-target framework PR, I updated try.orchardcore.fr, not the .NET one, the French one, with the latest version of the package. So it's running on .NET 5. If you want to try, this is one of the latest version of the packages. So you wanted a demo about the dashboard that has been merged. So if you go to Edit, you can see there is a new Resize. You see the dashed border and the icon on the lower right. You can drag and drop your widgets. And it's now using 6 widths of
columns.
6 columns, yes. So if I add a new widget,
it's broken.
yeah.
Refresh the page maybe, or quit, close editor and
Alright.
editor.
It doesn't work anymore. And there is-
Usually all the demos work fine.
yeah.
Did you refresh the page? Refresh completely.
Yeah,
And
maybe because I switched my yeah, no.
close the editor and then refresh. And then
I will do hard refresh. Manage, add,
it's broken.
not
Broke
working.
everything.
Yeah, you have to check. Okay. First demo, not working. Check.
So the new features here are the fact that it's 6 columns. You can you see the resize queue is better than what the buttons are named differently, are more obvious. Yeah, we still see the width and the height here, but that's okay. So that's good. Like it. And also the metadata, like 3 weeks ago, admin published, is only visible when you edit, not when you look at the dashboard, because it doesn't make sense. But then if you close the editor, it should be super clean. Yeah, it's super nice. So these are simple widgets, but we expect people to create more widgets like content items based, like latest elements or archives for blogs, running workflows like latest workflows, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't add, you can't remove, everything is broken.
Oh, I guess I can remove. I unpublished it and it's not visible, and I can delete it, but I cannot add a new one.
It's a small mistake. That's interesting. Okay, good.
Okay, about the SEO, I made a small change. You are now able to check some editor settings on the SEO meta part to say if you want to display the keywords or the custom meta tags in the content panel, or to say if you want to display the Open Graph panel, the Twitter panel, or the Google Schema panel. So by default, they are all visible when they are checked. You can see all those ones. Jasmin made a small change for the accordion to display the cards. And if I save and refresh my page in Edit, SEO tab, you will only see the content and the panel about the pictures, and you can not see the keywords and the custom meta tags. And if I check them again, refresh, and I can see the meta keywords and the custom meta tags. That was about SEO. About code generation templates. So if you install the project templates pointing to the preview source like this, then you are able to use these command line. So by default, the framework will be Netcore App 3.1, but if you want to use Net 5.0, you can use framework -- framework, or you can use . So I am in this empty folder. I opened this command line. And so exit FM, it should be working. Global.json was not found. So it was working previously.
Delete the global JSON file that you have in the folder. Go up one level.
Okay, maybe.
Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And rename it if you don't want to leave to. So what's happening is that a global JSON will define what exact SDK you need or you want for this folder hierarchy. Here you have one, so it will say, okay, you want one special. And if you open it, it will say 5.0.100, but you have the 5.0.200 or something like that. So it says, I can't find the one you want. So just rename it, and it will just pick the latest. No, rename it.
I change it to.
Okay, to the one you have. Or you just don't have one, and it will pick up the latest one you have.
So let's try it again. Not working.
So don't set it because you don't have this version again. Or set the correct version. You have the 5.0.200. Don't set it. It will actually pick the 6.0 in this case, I think. But that's fine. You can still generate the.
And now it should be working using the Net 5.0 and the latest version of the package on Cloudsmith. So this is using the command line, and we updated the doc to include the new parameters. We updated the templates, and now we are also able to open Visual Studio. So I suggest to download the latest version of Visual Studio 2019 that has been released today during Ignite. You should check in the options preview features that this option is selected, show all .NET Core templates in the new project dialog. And if I open a new Visual Studio 2019 and create a new project, this dialog you can check you can select the orchard core category, and you will be able to select a new project like this orchard core TMS web app. And this is the same parameters. So let's say I want to create a new project called myproject.web. So that's the first step. The second one, you will be able to specify the parameters. So I will use the .NET 5 target framework. I will use NLog, and I will use this version of Orchard. And if you do create, you will have a new Orchard core project running. If you check the CS proj, it's the same as the command line, but you are using a dialog. So I guess that if I want to add a new module or a new item, I just create a new project, select a new Orchard core theme, this is the same options that you have in the command line when you create a theme, and the same way it's using the target framework and the version that you specified. That's it for the demo.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the documentation might be wrong because it says the default is netcorrupt 3.1, but in the dialog it was net 5.0. So I assume the dialog wins.
Yes, but as you can see, I will show you again.
On the command line, it's net 3.1?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Just using an alphabetical order of the order of the parameter.
I don't know. I will use net 5.0 as the default. This is the default in the CS proj. So, okay,
let's try again. Just
with that.
.NET new OCCMS, not specifying the framework. You see, it's using netcore 8.1.
So Visual Studio doesn't respect the default in the dropdown. Maybe it's an issue.
Maybe because it's called framework and it's trying to use the latest one, but the command line is using something like.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Should I share my screen?
You see the template is defined like this. So it's a select with multiple choices, and the first one is the .NET Core app, and it's using this one, this parameter from the build.
Yeah, that's when the dropdown is not respecting the first choice then, or the default choice, default value. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for all these demos, and please fix the dashboard demo. Unacceptable. Okay. Questions, comments about the demos, or anything else? Topics? Issues? Yeah. Issues. I saw that this weekend. Orchard. Where is Orchard? I'm Zoom just for Jean-Thierry. Okay. Let's go to the small screen. and all the eyes. Wiki, on the wiki, we have a roadmap. We haven't updated it for a long time, and someone was confused because when they went on the wiki page, there was not that. The first thing you see is roadmap pre-alpha. The software is still under active development, blah, blah, blah. And that's what you say. You see, so that you are like, it's still pre-alpha, that's weird. And actually, how we wrote it is that we wrote all the different phases we went through and what we shipped and at what date. So it was not obvious. So I added a date there, which was not there, I think. No, it was there. No, current status. I did current status. And then it was still confusing because it was at the beginning. So I added current status is RC2 and a link directly to status. The following sections describe each phase the software went through and what was released during that phase. Okay, so now it's obvious what's the thing. And then I was like, I will add a link for 1.0 with the remaining issues because people ask, when do we ship 1.0? Like 6 months ago. No, when that is fixed. And I clicked on it. And Antoine knows the result of that because I'm sure he worked on that list. I didn't know. So I click. Oh, there is 2 items. Release, which is the steps of the things to release, and just this one now because we did some triage to remove all the issues and to focus on what issues need to be fixed. So now this one is blocking, but I think there is a command that says we should try to repro it because maybe it's more an issue and maybe it's not actually blocking. So we need to test it again, or just say fix later. Just we need to understand if it's a big issue or not. So we are ready to ship 1.0, I think, in terms of feature missing. It's up to us to decide, are we waiting for some things like your dtrail or other nice to have fixes like fix the dashboard because it's completely broken. So we need to fix it. Stuff like that. So do a triage focusing on 1.0 to really update the list of the things to fix 1.0 and start shipping it, I think. Super stable. Should we have the SEO module as it is right now? I think it's good. So maybe you should have it. Things like this. Comments, suggestions? People are still here. That's good. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Good. What else? It's time. So just mentioning what I did last week. I worked on perf, but mostly on the Fluid 2 branch. Oh, it doesn't build. Interesting. I had to check that. It started with the Fluid 2.0 branch, and then I made huge changes in Fluid 2.0 to support non-static variables for multi-tenancy and other things. And then I looked at perf and tried and found some things that needed to be improved, and we improved and we improved and we improved again. And Jean-Thierry helped me, and then Dean looked at it also. Look at that. Was breaking everything, and then Jean-Thierry will go behind me and fix all the things I broke. Then look at dynamic and all the eye shapes instead of shapes. So we did lots of changes to make things faster and also sometimes better. So I think it's open there. One change that we did that I think is interesting is the resource management, the resources. So you remember the resources, there was some notion of resource provider, and a resource provider could edit a resource builder, something like that. Now it's much simpler. Now when you want to define a resource, I need an example. We have so many of them. Here, this one. When you need to define resources, oh my God, can't find it. Take this one. I'm sure I won't have. Where are the resources? There is a module, resources, but there's no resources in that. oh, this is this file. Okay, sorry, but it should be defined in the startup. Oh, it's there. Oh, I missed it. So now the way you define resources is an option. Resource management options. The resources now are in the options as in resource manifest. So there is no builder and providers that were resolved all the time. It's just the resource management options as a resource manifest list, and you add stuff there or you remove stuff there. It's an options object. So you can either create a service that will be an iConfigure options, and that will just resolve the options and update the values there. Or you can, in the startup, say .configure, and then you pass your lambda that will add a specific resource. So now what happens is that on startup, this object will be resolved and configured by all the configurations, and we'll have the same object reused. Also, another improvement that was done, which is not the case in this class, interestingly, but it could be done. So the idea is that now that we have this model, we should have these objects as static objects, so that if we have multiple tenants, it's actually the same instance of the resource manifest that is used across all tenants. Just a micro optimization, but that's better to reuse all the objects if we can. It's like a singleton in the singleton. So these are some changes. We made also some changes for perf in terms of shape binding attribute. I won't go into the details, but if we take, I did Control P. Control P is print in Visual Studio. So here, if I do pager shapes, so pager shapes, this is a shape table provider. And in this file, we have all the templates for the pager shapes, like pager links. This is a shape attribute for templates. So you can define the template for the pager links in code, okay? And how it's invoked is we find all the methods and we invoke them and bind dynamically all these properties. It used to rely on dynamics by the past, and it was really not optimized because it was looking for every parameter every time it would be invoked. So it was quite slow. So I did some refactoring. I had some fun, I will tell you. Shape, attribute binding, strategy. I did some refactoring, and now what's happening is that only once it will do some reflection to find the parameters, and it will build some expressions, an expression tree on the first call. So it's like code generation that will actually invoke the correct method with the correct parameter. So you see here, if I find shape, it will resolve that. But this test will be only once because this lambda will be cached for this specific method. And the call of this method is also code generated. So in the end, it's much faster to invoke these kinds of shape templates. Too much noise in my house. So that, and all the shapes will benefit from that, and also removing all the usage of dynamics. So for instance, in the layout, so if I take the theme layout here. Yeah, so for instance, before what we are doing is we had that as a dynamic, and we will access the content property of theme layout. So it will be a dynamic invocation of the property. It will be slow. Now it's just strongly typed. Zones has, well, a layout has zones, which has an indexer, and you can add a shape to it, and it's async. Before it was calling add, which was doing a get result on that. No, we are C#, we are strongly typed. We don't need dynamicity here. Just call it straight. So it's also better for lots of changes like this in many things. Same thing for layers, which was also using dynamic layouts. Yeah. So perf improvements and the result between moving to 5.0, which improved the perf. But I could already have the same perf without 5.0, so it should be even faster after that. 5.0 and all these changes, it's not double the performance, but it's at least 50–60% perf improvements in terms of RPS and also in terms of latencies. Like even on the highest load we can have on my machine, on my desktop, which was like 5,500 requests per second, the latency would be 10 milliseconds at the max load. Then if you add more connections, the latency will increase, but the RPS will stay the same. It won't decrease, it won't increase. It's the bottleneck is at 5.5 thousand requests per second. And at that level, the bottleneck is the database. So in this case, it was SQLite. SQLite could not send more than that number of requests per second to the database. Even, for instance, on an API call, which is doing still a SQL query, but no generation, no dynamics, no templating, nothing, no layers, just an API call was 6.6 thousand requests per second. So you see just 20% more is the cost of generating HTML and all the layers and the rules and everything, and the layout and the theming. So that's really the database that is the bottleneck. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. I'm looking into how to make SQLite faster in these kind of scenarios. I have some ideas. So that's the work I did. So nothing visible for now, but when the Fluid2 branch will be merged, the perf should be much faster in the admin and in the front end, because all these changes I made here, they're also impacting the backend, like the pagers, the dynamics that are removed, the resource managers. So that should be much better. It's already super nice, but the difference should be visible when you use it. That's my update. Questions, comments? Awesome. Okay.
Oh, that's great. When are you gonna merge Fluid2? I'm just aware that the sooner we get it out there, the sooner we can bug test it.
I think I have done all the perf improvements I wanted on Orchard. My next step are for SQLite itself, driver and everything. So I should be able to merge. It doesn't work apparently right now. I need to find what's happening. So maybe if functional test is broken, I thought it was working, but I'm ready. I think on my side, we need to test it. I expect there will be some issues in Fluid. Like this weekend, I fixed a bug that was in the limit property of a for tag. You could not pass a variable. You had to pass an integer. And I'm like, crazy. And I didn't have a test for that. So I'm afraid that there will be issues like this that we don't find. But I've set up all the recipes. I go in there, in all the pages I can, so all the templates work, at least the Razor templates. But on the front end, we need to try the Liquid templates. All the same unit tests as Fluid1 pass, but maybe the coverage was not perfect. Definitely not perfect. So we want to test it. The biggest improvement also that was improving the perf is the fact that now when we render tags, Liquid tags, it's not backed by a tag helper from Razor anymore. It's just raw usage of C# code directly. So an example, I have so many examples, but because I have so many examples, I don't know where to look at. Resource manager, resources. So the resource module, where is that? To show you an example for perf, that's super important. Where is resources? Resources. Oh, that was in the startup use of that. So here, that's also the goal of the change of this branch. You configure the Liquid view options, and there you can say, I want to register a custom tag, the tag meta. So you can type something like meta in Liquid. Okay, that's the goal. So you register tag meta and you say call this method when you find it. And before it was actually invoking the tag helper that we made for meta. So there was a bridge between the Liquid and the tag helper, and this tag helper infrastructure is very costly. And now it's just saying, okay, we want the meta tag. Now here are the properties we will read from the meta tag, and just invoke the resource manager attributes, the resource manager services to do that. So the perf improvements on that is super interesting. That's the thing. So yeah, there might be some bugs due to all these Liquid changes, but it's passing well. As long as you pass the test, and we need to try it on website to find the bugs. There will be easy fixes, but we need to test it. That's it. Done. So if someone could test it on their site before I merge, that would be good. At least a small verification. One site, just see. I hope Jasmine will do that because it's got a big website in Liquid. So, okay. Thank you. See you on Thursday for triage and next week for the next meeting. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.